Ladies and gentlemen, hello everyone. You are once again welcome here on your platform. Much beloved, the platform for awakening consciousness. So it's making international headlines. The president of the Russian Federation, Vladimir Putin, has just issued a final warning to the European Union. A final warning to the European Union. Since when President Vladimir Putin speaks, it seems that the Europeans refuse to listen. They are stubborn in their approach to wanting to continue rearming their own territory. Rearming Ukraine, and then their irreversible intention. To want to deploy ground troops in Ukraine, they say, to monitor some kind of ceasefire. The objective of Vladimir Putin's warning concerns the deployment of troops on the ground, European troops on the ground in Ukraine, in the name of monitoring a potential peace agreement that might occur between Russia and NATO, Ukraine. So, Russia has not been gentle with Europe. Putin issues a warning and outlines the catastrophic consequences linked to such an initiative that would come from the European Union. And so, on the other side, we have the European Union, which is overwhelmed by the events, which of course knows that it is organizing, planning things, ensuring that the Russo-Ukrainian conflict cannot come to an end. But the European Union also knows that it had lifted trade restrictions, notably agricultural restrictions, on Ukraine, which are advantages granted to Ukraine, that greatly strain the European Union, as we have seen. Many countries in the European Union complain about this customs ease that was granted to Ukraine. So, all mixed together, the situation becomes very, very confusing. The European Union finds itself facing a very difficult situation here. So, ladies and gentlemen, in the context of this video conference, this is what we are going to talk about. But as you usually know, before diving deep, I ask you to share this video conference. Share it in all possible groups. Give it lots of likes. Above all, always remember to leave a comment. Hello, Samurai. These interactions help give more visibility to the video conference. Let's dive deep, dear ladies and gentlemen. So, we all know it, right? The idea in the minds of the Europeans, an idea fueled by Paris and London, is to send ground troops to Ukraine. They have always had this irresistible and unforgivable desire to send ground troops to Ukraine, of course. What is the objective? To send ground troops. It's going to be troops of volunteers according to them, but in reality they are NATO troops. So, NATO troops at the gates. In the face of Russia, it's a provocation. That's why Putin says this. He says this. Russia issues a warning to countries that wish to deploy troops in Ukraine. So, the warning concerns countries that wish to deploy troops in Ukraine. Parenthesis, since already we have seen Donald Trump, who gave up on that. He said that if the Europeans want to send ground troops, let the Europeans send them. But America will not send soldiers, and America will not deploy a system to ensure the security of those troops who will go on the ground. So, Russia sent another clear warning to Keir Starmer and to the other participants at the Paris meeting, because it was at this Paris meeting that everything was ultimately decided, and we now know what to expect. So, Putin sends the message clearly, and he says that the stationing of troops in Ukraine is completely unacceptable. The stationing of troops in Ukraine is completely unacceptable because it opens up the possibility of a direct conflict between Russia and NATO. It's Putin speaking. I repeat, he says, the stationing of troops in Ukraine is completely unacceptable because it opens the possibility of a direct conflict between Russia and NATO. It's over. That means If those troops set foot in Ukraine, Russia will open fire. That's clear. And so from now on, the conflict will no longer be between. Well, it's true that for the moment it's being done by proxy. But from now on, the conflict will be between NATO and Russia. It's inevitable, it's undeniable. And everyone still knows what the consequences are. If Russia enters into conflict with NATO, it's trouble. The United States of America, moreover, does not even want there to be a conflict between Russia and NATO. There you go. Here is the warning that Vladimir Putin had to give. And on the other side, what needs to be said is that we have the European Union, which is starting to not understand anything anymore. The European Union knows that the war it is pushing for there, it will continue. But the European Union has lost a lot. You know, grains, everything, agricultural, Ukrainian, was crossing European borders without customs duties. And the Ukrainians, in turn, when they enter other European territories, they sell their products at a very low price. The price is low because they don't have customs duties to pay. So it's a situation that has greatly affected European countries, even Poland, which was a friend. Very friendly with Ukraine. If there was unrest recently, it was in 2023, 2024, they protested. Now, the European Union is preparing itself to reduce its agricultural imports from Ukraine. This is not abandoning Ukraine. It is abandoning Ukraine. So, and the European Union wants to do this following a review of trade conditions, of their own trade conditions. According to the European Commissioner for Agriculture, Christophe Hassel, who spoke to AFP, the European Union wants to reduce its commercial imports, its agricultural imports from Ukraine. So you automatically understand from this that the European Union no longer cares about how Ukraine will survive, since its exports allow it to do things, at least allowed Ukraine to subsist a little. Despite this export, Ukraine continued to ask for money. It always needed money. Now imagine that this export is reduced, and from now on, there is no longer even any assurance that America will continue to finance Ukraine. The few resources that the European Union has to be able to finance Ukraine are not sufficient for their own countries, first of all. So the situation becomes very, very complicated. Whatever happens, they have no means. They want to continue pushing Ukraine. But Vladimir Putin has just issued a warning to them. If they want to listen, to understand. If they don't want to, they should leave it. So, ladies and gentlemen, here is the headline of international news. Thank you for sharing it as much as possible. I will be back shortly with more news. That was the voice of your one and only samurai.